The light from 7 different stars filled the observation deck of Meridian Prime Station. From this window, a person could see into 3 different sectors of space at once. The station itself was enormous, a wheel of metal and crystal that spun slowly in the darkness, creating artificial gravity for the thousands of beings who lived and studied there. Inside the main lecture hall of the Galactic Institute of Xenological Studies, chairs arranged in circles held students from 12 different species. Some sat on specially designed cushions that floated slightly above the ground. Others coiled their long bodies around pillars. A few stood on muscular legs, while one student simply drifted in a null gravity field suspended above the floor. This was normal for the Institute. Normal meant different things to everyone. Teo sat in one of the regular chairs made for human beings like himself. He was 23 years old, with dark hair and deep brown eyes. He wore the gray uniform of a student at the Institute, though it still felt strange against his skin. 3 weeks ago, he had been in Seoul, South Korea, studying engineering at a normal university. Then came the letter offering him a place in this incredible facility among the stars. He had said yes before his parents could tell him no. Now, sitting in this classroom full of alien students, Teo felt both excited and very, very small. The Valorian next to him had 4 arms and skin that changed colors based on emotion. Behind him, a Krillian creature that looked like an intelligent insect was clicking in rapid patterns to another student. Further away, a tall, graceful being with silver skin floated serenely in meditation. Teo was the only human in the room. In fact, he was one of only 3 humans on the entire station. The other 2 were administrative workers who barely noticed him. Humans were new to this part of the galaxy. Earth had only recently been discovered by the larger galactic community. For most species here, humanity was a curiosity. An interesting footnote. Definitely not a threat. Definitely not equals. The lesson was about to begin. Instructor Vexitholian entered through the main door, and the entire classroom went silent. The instructor was tall and scaled, with skin that shimmered between shades of green and gold. His eyes were large and ancient-looking, set deep in a reptilian face. He had been teaching at the Institute for over 300 years, which seemed impossible to Teo, but many species lived far longer than humans. Vexitholian carried something in his clawed hands. It was a box made of crystal, but not the clear, transparent kind. This crystal was dense and complex. Its surface was covered in patterns that seemed to move and shift in the light. The patterns were so detailed and so precise that Teo's eyes could barely follow them. It looked ancient. It looked impossible. It looked like something that should only exist in museums or locked in vaults, not held casually in a teacher's hands. The instructor placed the box on a metal table at the front of the room. Every student leaned forward slightly. Even the ones who were supposedly meditating opened their eyes to look. "This," Vexitholian said, his voice like the sound of stones sliding against each other, "is the Kepler box. It was constructed by the architects of Kepler 442 approximately 5,000 years ago. That civilization no longer exists. We do not know why. We do not know what happened to them. What we do know is that they created objects of extraordinary complexity and beauty." He paused, letting his eyes move across the classroom, looking at each student in turn. When his gaze reached Teo, the human felt a strange sensation, as if the instructor could see deep into his mind. "For the past 300 years," the instructor continued, "I have taught this class. I have brought this box to each session. I have given every student the same challenge. That challenge is simple. Solve the box. Open it. Discover what lies within. You have 1 semester to do this. You may work together or alone. You may use any tools you wish, except tools that would destroy or damage the box. You may study it, measure it, analyze it, think about it. Any method is acceptable, except one that breaks it." The instructor picked up the box again. He turned it slowly, showing all sides. The patterns caught the light in strange ways, creating tiny rainbows that danced across the crystal surface. "In 300 years," Vexitholian said quietly, "not one student has opened this box. Not one has solved it. I do not know if it can be solved. I do not know if the architects built it as a puzzle, or as a lock, or as something else entirely, but if you can solve it, you will receive the highest mark I have ever given. You will also become a part of history. You will be the first." The instructor set the box back down on the table. "You will each have exactly 1 minute to examine the box closely. You may touch it, hold it, look at it however you wish, but only 1 minute each. After that, you will take it away and spend the semester working on it. Begin." The first student, a Valorian with 4 arms, stood up and approached the table. The creature's skin turned bright orange as it touched the box. Its 4 hands moved quickly, rotating the box, feeling every surface, running its sensitive fingers across the patterns. After exactly 1 minute, the instructor made a soft clicking sound. The Valorian stepped back, its skin now a confused shade of purple. The next student was a Krillian, with a hard outer shell and many legs. It approached the box differently, using what looked like specialized scanning equipment mounted on its body. It clicked and hummed as it worked. A strange, high-pitched frequency filled the room. The Krillian completed its minute and withdrew. One by one, students took their turn. Some used technology. Some just looked. One being that was made entirely of light tried to pass through the box itself, which did not seem to work. The Talshian student tried to open it with pure focus of will, which also failed. An older student from a species Tayo did not recognize tried to work the patterns like a combination lock, twisting and pushing without success. Nobody opened it. Nobody came close. Finally, the instructor looked toward Tayo. "Mr. Tayo," he said, his ancient eyes fixed on the young human. "The human student, you have not yet examined the box. Would you like to?" Tayo felt every eye in the classroom turn toward him. His heart was beating very fast. He did not feel prepared for this moment. He was not even sure he belonged here, but he stood up anyway. He walked to the front of the room slowly, trying to appear calm and confident. Inside, he was nervous beyond words. He was a new student from a new species. These other students had spent their entire lives studying in advanced institutions. They had access to technologies he could barely understand. How could he possibly solve something they could not? Tayo reached the table and picked up the box. It was lighter than he expected. It was also warm, as if it had been holding the heat of the nearby stars. The crystal was smooth and cool where the patterns were shallow, and slightly rough where the designs cut deeper into the material. The whole thing felt delicate, as if it could break if he squeezed too hard. He turned it over in his hands. Most of the other students had tried to approach this like a puzzle, Tayo thought. They had tried to think of it as something that opened like a lock. They had tried to find buttons or hidden switches or secret mechanisms. That made sense. That was logical. But Tayo had spent his entire life playing video games. He had controlled 3-dimensional characters moving through 3-dimensional spaces. He had manipulated objects on screens from multiple angles. He had learned, through years of playing games, to think in 3 dimensions naturally. It was as normal to him as walking. He rotated the top third of the box counterclockwise, a twist that seemed almost natural, almost like the crystal wanted to move that way. Then, without really thinking about it, he pushed inward on what appeared to be a solid panel on the side. Something gave. Something clicked. The entire structure suddenly came apart, not with violence but with elegance. 7 pieces of perfect crystal lay flat against the table, exactly fitted together a moment before. The box was open. The puzzle was solved. The entire classroom went completely silent. Tayo looked down at the open box in confusion. Had he actually just done that? He looked at the instructor. Vexitholian's large eyes were even larger than before. Teo carefully sat down in his chair, his mind spinning with what had just happened. The semester had barely begun, and everything had changed. Word traveled fast through Meridian Prime Station. Within hours, students who had not even been in the classroom were asking questions about the human who had solved the ancient puzzle. By the next morning, the news had spread to every department, every research facility, and every corner of the station. Some people did not believe it. Some people insisted on seeing proof. Some people simply wanted to know more about this impossible event. Teo woke up in his small room in the student quarters and found 17 messages waiting on his communication device. 8 were from other students asking him questions. 3 were from academic researchers requesting interviews. 4 were from media outlets requesting formal statements. 1 was from the director of the institute asking him to come to his office immediately. Another was from Instructor Vexitholian requesting a private meeting. Teo decided to start with his instructor. The path to Vexitholian's office took him through the upper sections of the institute, where the gravity was slightly different and the air felt thinner. The walls here were transparent, showing the stars beyond. Teo passed other students who stopped and stared at him as he walked by. He was used to being looked at because he was different. This was different somehow. This felt like being looked at because he had done something important. Vexitholian's office was not what Teo expected. Instead of being a cold, technical space filled with equipment, it was warm and comfortable. There were artifacts on the shelves, sculptures from dozens of civilizations, books made from materials Teo did not recognize, and images of stars and planets on every wall. A large window looked out onto deep space. The instructor was waiting for him, standing by the window, his scaled hands folded behind his back. "Teo," Vexitholian said without turning around. "Thank you for coming." "Of course, instructor," Teo replied. He was nervous, but he was trying not to show it. Vexitholian turned around slowly. His ancient eyes studied the young human carefully, as if he was trying to see inside Teo's mind and understand what made him different from everyone else. "Tell me," the instructor said, "how did you solve the box? I have been teaching with that box for 300 years. I have watched thousands of students examine it. None of them understood how to open it. Yet you, a human who arrived at this station only 3 weeks ago, solved it in less than 1 minute. How?" Teo thought about this carefully. How could he explain something that felt so natural to him that he had not even thought about it? How could he put into words the way his brain worked? "I do not know, sir," he said honestly. "When I picked up the box, I did not try to think like it was a puzzle lock or a mechanism with hidden switches. I just looked at it and felt where it wanted to move, like it was designed to open in a specific way, and my hands just knew how to do it." Vexitholian's tail, which had been hanging still, began to move slowly back and forth. "You felt where it wanted to move," he repeated thoughtfully. "That is an interesting way to describe it. Most students approach problems with pure logic. They analyze, they measure, they calculate, they think step by step. You, however, seem to have used something different. Intuition, perhaps? Or experience?" "I grew up playing video games," Teo said, then quickly added, "That is a form of entertainment on Earth where you control a character or object in a 3-dimensional space. You have to move things, rotate them, combine them, and solve puzzles to progress in the game. I have been doing that since I was very young. Maybe my brain learned to see things in 3 dimensions differently because of that." Vexitholian walked to one of his shelves and picked up a crystal object that looked similar to the puzzle box, except smaller. "Your species is very young," he said. "Only a few hundred years of space travel. Only a few hundred years of understanding that other civilizations exist. Your technology is primitive compared to what we have here. Your scientific knowledge is incomplete, and yet In almost every test we have given to humans, you show something unusual. You show what we call lateral thinking. You find solutions that older species do not even consider. He held the small crystal up to the light. Why do you think that is? Maybe because we are new, Teo said slowly, working through the thought as he spoke. Other species have been civilized for thousands of years. They have ways they have always done things. They have systems and methods that have worked for a very long time. Humans do not have that yet. We have to try different things because we do not know what the right way is. We do not have old rules telling us what is impossible. A strange sound came from Vex Tholian, something between a hiss and a laugh. Ignorance as advantage, the instructor said. That is both clever and dangerous, but it is also accurate, I think. Your species does not know what cannot be done, so you attempt things we would never attempt, and sometimes those attempts succeed. The instructor set the small crystal back on the shelf. There will be many questions now, Teo. People will want to study you, to understand how your mind works differently. The scientific community will want to publish papers. The military will want to know if humans possess some special advantage that makes them dangerous. The government will want to know if bringing humans to the Institute was a wise decision. Everyone will have opinions about what your success means. What do you think it means, sir? Teo asked. Vexatholian turned back to the window, looking out at the infinite space beyond. I think it means that the galaxy is more complex and interesting than we believed. I think it means that humanity deserves the opportunity to develop here, to learn, to contribute. I think it means that 300 years of teaching with that box has finally ended with success. And I am glad that success comes from someone who reminds me that even the oldest institutions sometimes need new perspectives. The instructor paused, then added, But you should prepare yourself, Teo. Not everyone in the galaxy will be happy about this. There are powers that do not welcome change. They will try to limit what humans can do. They will argue that we should not accelerate your development. They may even try to send you home. Will you help me? Teo asked. He was surprised by his own courage in asking the question. Vexatholian turned and looked at him directly. Something in the instructor's expression softened. Yes, he said. I will help you. You have already taught me something. I will make sure others understand what I have learned. Now go. There are many people who want to speak with you, and you might as well start answering their questions. The truth is always better than speculation. Teo left the office feeling both terrified and hopeful. He had no idea how his life would change, but he knew it would be different from this moment forward. The young human walked through the halls of the Institute, trying to ignore the stares, trying to act normal, trying to believe that everything would be okay. But in his heart, he knew that something significant had begun, and there was no way to stop it now. 1 week after Teo solved the puzzle box, Dr. Mi-sun came to find him in the Institute's main library. She was a Korean woman, like Teo, but older, maybe in her 40s, with intelligent eyes and the careful way of moving that suggested she was always thinking about something. She had been living on Meridian Prime for 15 years, working as a research scientist. She wore the white coat of a senior researcher, which gave her authority in the Institute. Hello, Teo, Mi-sun said, sitting down across from him at his study table. I have been wanting to talk with you. Teo looked up from the document he was reading. In the past week, he had been trying to understand more about the ancient architects and their civilization, hoping it might give him clues about why the puzzle box had been designed the way it was. He was both grateful and nervous to see an adult from his own species. Hello, Dr. Mi-sun, he said. How can I help you? Mi-sun smiled. I work in the Department of Cognitive Advancement. We study how different species think, how their brains work, what makes each civilization unique in their approach to knowledge. I have been reading the reports about how you solved the puzzle box. I have also been reviewing your test scores from your first 3 weeks here. Do you know what they show?" Teo shook his head. He had not paid much attention to his academic results. He was too busy trying to adjust to everything being different. "They show something very interesting," Mi-sun continued. "You are not the best student in mathematics. You are not the best in physics. You are not the best in any single subject. But in problem-solving tests, especially those that require creative thinking or unconventional approaches, you score higher than students who have been studying these subjects for decades. This pattern shows up in your test results over and over again." She opened a data pad and showed him charts and graphs. "The Institute would like to study this more carefully. We want to understand what your brain does differently. We want to know if this is something unique to you, or if all humans share this advantage. We would like your permission to conduct some cognitive tests. They are not painful or harmful. They are just tests to understand how you think." Teo felt both excited and cautious. Part of him wanted to understand his own mind better. Another part of him felt like a laboratory specimen being examined. But he remembered what Vex Tholian had told him about the truth being better than speculation. "Yes," he said, "I will do it." Over the next 3 weeks, Teo spent several hours every day with Mi-sun and her team of researchers. They gave him spatial reasoning tests, showing him three-dimensional shapes and asking him to imagine how they would look from different angles. He solved them almost as quickly as he could see them. They gave him logic puzzles that could be solved in multiple ways, and he found the creative solutions before the obvious ones. They showed him broken objects and asked him to figure out how to fix them with limited resources, and he designed solutions that made the engineers in the room look surprised. The results were clear. Teo's brain was different, not superior in every way, but specifically adapted for certain types of thinking. When the final report was ready, Mi-sun met with him in her office to discuss the findings. "We believe it has to do with how humans evolved," Mi-sun explained. "Most of the intelligent species in the galaxy evolved within established civilizations. They learned to think within systems that were already created. Humans, however, evolved on Earth with very little in terms of advanced knowledge available to us. We had to figure out everything ourselves. We invented games to play, especially games that involve moving objects through three-dimensional space. Video games are something very human, something no other species seems to enjoy as much as we do. This constant practice in three-dimensional manipulation and problem-solving may have shaped your brains differently." "So you are saying," Teo said carefully, "that playing video games made me better at solving the puzzle box?" "Not exactly," Mi-sun said with a smile. "I am saying that the evolutionary pressure on Earth, combined with the specific entertainment we developed, created a population with certain cognitive strengths. Those strengths are valuable. The Galactic Institute wants to recruit more humans. We want to bring other humans here to study and work. We think humanity has something important to offer." "Will they all be able to solve puzzles like I did?" Teo asked. "No," Mi-sun said. "You are exceptional even among humans, I think. But I believe most humans would show similar advantages in lateral thinking and creative problem-solving. We would like to test this hypothesis." The decision was made. The Galactic Institute officially requested that Earth send more human students to Meridian Prime. The proposal went through diplomatic channels. Earth's government, amazed by what Teo had already accomplished, agreed. 6 more humans were selected and approved to travel to the Institute. The announcement caused a sensation. Back on Earth, people celebrated the idea that humans had something special that the galaxy had noticed. Newspapers published headlines about humanity's hidden advantage. Scientists debated whether video games had really shaped human evolution. Some people worried that sending more humans away would somehow harm Earth. But most people were excited about the possibility of human advancement. For Teo, the announcement was both good news and pressure. He was no longer the only human. Soon, there would be others. but they would all be compared to him, measured against his success with the puzzle box. He would be their reference point, their example of what humans could achieve. 3 weeks later, the first ship arrived carrying the 6 new human students. They were all roughly Teo's age, all selected from different countries on Earth, all nervous about what they would find. Teo met them at the docking station. He saw himself reflected in their faces, remembering his own fear and excitement from 3 weeks before. "Welcome to the Galactic Institute," Teo said, trying to sound confident. "I am Teo. I will help you understand how things work here." The other students looked at him with something close to wonder. He was the human who had solved the ancient puzzle. He was famous among them already, and they had only just arrived. Teo realized in that moment that his life would never be simple again. He had opened more than a puzzle box. He had opened a door that his entire species would eventually walk through, and he would be forever the one who opened that door first. The 6 new human students arrived with different backgrounds and different skills. Dawan was an engineer from Seoul who had spent his career designing more efficient systems. Hae-in was a physicist from Busan with expertise in theoretical science. Kyung-soo was a linguist who had mastered 7 different languages on Earth. Ji-woo was a military strategist who had studied battle tactics and defensive systems. Yunbyul was an artist and designer who created beautiful things. Tai-il was a musician who composed complex symphonies. Together, they represented humanity's diversity and potential. Teo helped each of them adjust to life on Meridian Prime. He showed them how the gravity worked in different sections of the station. He explained the different species and which ones were friendly to humans. He helped them navigate the food distribution systems, which required understanding alien dietary needs alongside human needs. He was their guide, their older brother, their example of success. But the real test would be their academic performance. The Institute's administrators assigned each human student to different departments based on their expertise. Dawan was placed in the Engineering and Systems Department. Hae-in joined the Physics and Theoretical Sciences section. Kyung-soo went to the Linguistics and Communication Studies group. Ji-woo entered the Strategic Systems and Defense program. Yunbyul went to the Design and Creation department. Tai-il joined the Music and Harmonic Studies program. If Taeyo's success had been impressive, what happened over the next 3 months was revolutionary. Dawan was assigned to improve the energy distribution system of Meridian Prime Station. The system had been designed by Krell engineers 500 years ago. It was efficient, stable, and had never failed. The Krell were known for their engineering excellence. No one had ever improved a Krell system because it was widely believed that nothing could improve it. But Dawan looked at it differently. He studied the system for 2 weeks, understanding how it worked, learning every aspect of its design. Then he made a simple suggestion. Instead of distributing power through 4 main lines, redistribute it through 6 secondary lines, with the 4 main lines serving as backup systems. The change was simple. The mathematics behind it was basic. The efficiency increase was 30%. The entire engineering department went quiet when they realized what had happened. A human had improved a Krell system. In all of galactic history, that had never occurred. Hae-in was working on theoretical research into faster-than-light communication. The problem was that current systems were limited by the laws of physics, and everyone believed those laws could not be broken. Hae-in did not try to break the laws. Instead, she found a way to work within them in a way no one had considered before. She combined quantum mechanics principles with relativity theory in a novel way, creating a theoretical model that suggested instantaneous communication was possible without actually breaking anything. Her paper was sent to the highest scientific councils across the galaxy. Kyung-soo made a discovery in the linguistics department. He noticed that the way humans used metaphors and abstract language could help translate concepts between species that had no common reference point. His technique for bridging linguistic gaps between completely different species opened new possibilities for communication. Jiwoo's achievements were perhaps the most shocking. In a strategic military simulation, he was asked to defend a space station against a hypothetical invasion by a superior force. The simulation had been used to train military strategists for thousands of years. No one had ever won it. Jiwoo looked at the problem differently. Instead of thinking about how to fight the invading force, he thought about what the invaders actually wanted. He designed a defensive strategy that made the invasion pointless, making the enemy's entire goal impossible to achieve rather than trying to defeat them militarily. The Tal'Shian battle commanders, a race known for their military excellence, studied his solution for hours. They finally admitted that his strategy was superior to anything they had ever conceived. Yunbyo's work in design brought new aesthetic principles to the Institute. Her combination of human artistic sensibility with alien understanding of form and function created new designs that were both beautiful and practical. Other species, who had long considered themselves the masters of design, suddenly found humans competing with them in this arena. Tai-Il composed a musical piece that combined human harmonic structures with the resonance frequencies used by the Valorians. The result was something entirely new, a sound that made even beings without ears feel something emotional. His piece was performed in the main concert hall of the Institute, and it was broadcast to research stations across 3 sectors. 6 months after the first 6 humans arrived, the reports came to the Institute's Administrative Council. The results were undeniable. Humans showed consistent advantages in creative and lateral thinking. They were not better at traditional subjects like advanced mathematics or ancient science. But in innovation, in finding new solutions, in doing things differently, they excelled. The Administrative Council called for a major decision. They decided to officially open enrollment to all human applicants. Humans would be welcome to Meridian Prime. The Institute would establish a human studies program. The galaxy would begin a new chapter in its relationship with humanity. But this decision did not make everyone happy. On the encrypted communication channels used by the older civilizations, messages began to circulate. The Confederacy of Ancient Worlds, a coalition of the most powerful and oldest species in the galaxy, was concerned. Some of their leaders asked difficult questions. If humans advanced so quickly, could they become a threat? If humans possessed cognitive advantages, should those advantages be limited? Should humanity's growth be controlled? Some whispered about more aggressive measures. Some suggested that perhaps humans should be prevented from studying certain technologies. Some even suggested that maybe bringing humans to the Institute had been a mistake. Teo heard these whispers through Mi-sun and other sympathetic researchers. He knew that his success, instead of making everything better, had made things complicated. By proving that humans could think differently and solve problems creatively, he had frightened some of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. The director of the Institute called an assembly of human students. All 7 of them gathered in a private room. The director, an elderly Tal'Shian named Commander Veth, addressed them seriously. "You have all performed exceptionally," he said. "You have impressed our researchers, our scientists, our engineers, and our strategists. But you have also made some powerful beings very uncomfortable. The Confederacy of Ancient Worlds is meeting to discuss the human question. They may try to limit your enrollment. They may try to prevent certain humans from learning certain subjects. They may try to send you home. You should be prepared for this possibility." Teo felt cold inside. After all this progress, after proving that humans belonged here, it seemed like everything could be taken away. "What do we do?" he asked. The director looked at him carefully. "You prepare to defend your right to be here. You prepare to show the galaxy that humanity is not a threat, but an opportunity. You gather evidence, you build support, and when the moment comes, you speak for yourselves." The director left them alone in the room. The 7 humans looked at each other, understanding that their future, and perhaps the future of their entire species' relationship with the galaxy, now hung in balance. The Confederacy of Ancient Worlds held their emergency meeting in a secure chamber deep within the governmental structures of the Democratic Assembly, the organization that governed relations between all the spacefaring species. The meeting was private, but news of it spread quickly through Meridian Prime and beyond. The humans knew that their fate was being decided without them present. For 3 days, the 7 human students waited anxiously for news. They continued their studies because there was nothing else to do. Teo found it hard to concentrate on his classwork. He kept thinking about the decision being made somewhere far away, by beings he had never met, about whether his species had the right to learn and grow among the stars. On the 4th day, Mi-sun arrived at his room with urgent news. The Confederacy had made their formal recommendation, and it was not good. They had proposed that human access to advanced military technologies should be restricted. They had suggested that human students should be limited in certain research areas. Most damaging, they had proposed a 2-year suspension of new human enrollment to allow for further study and evaluation. It was not an outright ban, but it was a serious limitation. It was the galaxy's way of saying, "We are not sure about you, and we are going to make it harder for you to prove yourselves." The 7 humans gathered with Instructor Vexitholian and several other sympathetic professors. They sat in a private conference room, and the humans explained their situation. "What we need," Teo said, "is to speak directly to the Democratic Assembly. We need to tell them who we are and what we can offer. Right now, decisions are being made about us without us having any voice in it." Vexitholian's scales shimmered with what might have been approval. "The humans are correct," he said. "The Assembly accepts petitions from individuals and groups who wish to speak on matters that affect them. I will help you prepare a formal request to address the Assembly. But be warned, you will be speaking to beings some of whom are thousands of years old. They will not be easily impressed by your arguments alone. You will need to speak with absolute truth and absolute clarity." For 1 week, the 7 humans and their supporting professors worked to prepare. They gathered data, evidence, and documentation of their achievements. They prepared statements about what humans could contribute to the galaxy. They rehearsed their words, making sure each human would say something meaningful, something that would make the Assembly understand that humanity was not a threat, but an opportunity. The night before their presentation, Teo could not sleep. He kept thinking about how much rested on these next few hours. Not just for him, but for every human who would come after him. Every human who dreamed of traveling to the stars, of studying with other species, of contributing their unique perspective to the galaxy. He went to the observation deck and looked out at the stars. Vexitholian found him there an hour before dawn. "You are anxious," the instructor observed. "I am terrified," Teo replied honestly. "What if we say the wrong thing? What if they decide to send us all home?" "Then you will return home," Vexitholian said simply, "and you will continue being remarkable humans. The galaxy is large, Teo. Even if Meridian Prime closes its doors to humans, your species will eventually find its own place among the stars. That is inevitable now. You cannot undo the fact that you have shown what humans are capable of." "But it would be better if we could stay," Teo said. "Yes," Vexitholian agreed. "It would be better. So you will go to the Assembly and you will speak from your heart. You will tell them the truth, and then you will accept whatever comes." The Democratic Assembly chamber was enormous. It was designed to accommodate different species, so there were spaces for creatures that floated, spaces for those that needed water, spaces for beings made of pure energy, and traditional seats for humanoid species. Representatives from nearly 100 different civilizations filled the chamber. The morning light from the star that Meridian Prime orbited streamed through the great windows, illuminating everything in gold. Teo and the other humans were escorted to a central platform. The assembly's moderator, an ancient being whose species was so old that most civilizations had heard of them only in legends, called the session to order. The humans of Earth request the right to address this assembly regarding the recent Confederacy proposal, the moderator announced. Humans, you may speak. Teo stepped forward. His legs felt shaky. His voice felt small. But he spoke. I am Teo, he began. I came to Meridian Prime 3 months ago from Earth. I solved a puzzle that no one else could solve. Because of that, my species has come under scrutiny. Some of you believe that humans are a threat. Some of you believe that humanity should be controlled or limited. I understand those concerns. I want to address them directly. He paused, looking out at the hundreds of faces watching him. Humans are not a threat. We are new. We are young. We do not have weapons more powerful than yours. We do not have technology more advanced than yours. What we have is different perspective. What we have is a way of thinking that comes from being new, from not knowing the old rules, from being willing to try things that others believe impossible. Teo gestured to the other humans. Each of us has already proven what humans can offer. Dawan improved an ancient Krell system. Hei-In found a new path to communication science. Ji-Woo discovered a military strategy that your greatest commanders could not imagine. These are not the achievements of a threat. These are the achievements of a species that can contribute something valuable. He took a breath. If you close the door to humanity, you lose that contribution. You lose the chance to have partners who see problems differently. You lose the opportunity to evolve as a galactic civilization. I believe that is a mistake. I believe you should open your doors wider to humanity, not close them. One by one, the other humans spoke. Each shared their experience, their achievements, their perspective. The assembly listened. The debate that followed lasted 4 hours. Some spoke in favor of humanity. Some remained skeptical. Some suggested compromises. Finally, the moderator called for a vote. The question was simple. Should humanity be welcomed to Meridian Prime and other Institute facilities, or should restrictions be placed on human enrollment? The vote was not unanimous, but it was decisive. By a significant majority, the Assembly voted to welcome humanity, not with suspicion, but with genuine openness. The Confederacy's restrictions were rejected. Expanded human enrollment was approved. When the result was announced, Teo felt something break open inside him. The weight of the past week lifted. The fear vanished. Humanity had been given its chance. It was up to them now to prove they were worthy of it. The 7 humans left the assembly chamber to the sounds of applause and cheers from their supporters. Teo looked back at Vex Tholian, who gave him the slightest nod of acknowledgement. That small gesture meant more to the young human than any of the grand applause.